The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I realized something, and you realize things in life every now and then. I talked in the past about people like Teeny Howard and like why does Marvel like Teeny Howard? Why does DC like Teeny Howard? Teeny Howard's getting books, and I mentioned that one reason is that Teeny Howard is professional. Teeny Howard is fairly liked by editorial. Teeny Howard delivers things on time, is from all description pleasant to work with, and puts material in, meets deadlines, etc. Teeny Howard doesn't do things like, on the day of the deadline says, "Oh my God, I've had this horrible accident that I just invented." I mean, experienced, and I'm not going to be able to get things in, or shuttle over scripts that obviously are problematic. It was a cavalcade of news over the last week about a couple creators who are now getting less work, and kind of the shenanigans that led to them getting less work. And I will tell you, this is going to be the biggest test of my sworn to secrecy, because the balls out insane story, that multiple stories that I've heard, would blow your mind. And they'll come out. This is not a tease. I promise it'll come out sooner or later. It just needs to come out from someone else first, but it will, because it's too insane not to. But regardless, there is something to be said in the comics industry around being professional. And it's kind of sad that's where we're at, but I mean, that's kind of where we're at with a number of different businesses. It's not just comics. There's, you probably read on the news all this stuff about, quiet quitting and kind of these other phenomena going on in corporations where people should be doing a better job. They should be paying attention, should be fulfilling their duties that they're contracted for, but they don't. And so, that we wind up here. We wind up in this goofy ass place. But anyway, that's, so professionalism goes a long way. And I've done these videos talking about, well, why are some of these people still employed? Well, because they're professionals. And that really irritates people in the comments. Every time I do one of those, it's like people just get really like bent out of shape about it. Like, it doesn't matter. And they get really angry. But the reality is, that's only half the story. So let me explain. In order to really succeed in any kind of business, and comics being one of these, you have to have two things. You need to be professional, get your work done on time, be likable, not be a complete terror to work with. And you need to be skilled at the job. And the reality is, some people in comics have survived by being one of those two, by being professional, getting stuff turned in on time, not breaking the bank when you go to give them work. But they do show up, and they are reliable. And being reliable sometimes wins the race. Now, it's like the tortoise and the hare kind of parable. The tortoise is slow and steady, and the hare is a jackass running all over the place on crack, stops to mate with 50 other rabbits along the way, create little bunny babies, and then fucks up winning the race. And that's the way I told to my kids anyway. But anyway, the tortoise wins, slow and steady. And so, that the lesson in there for kids is, no matter what, just be reliable, be slow and steady, keep your eye on the task, and, get her done. Now, ideally, the even better employee, or the even better thing would be if the rabbit wasn't a jackass and just, use that power and strength, just race to the finish line, get it done. Well, the analogy here is, when you're really creative and talented, and you are also professional, you are the killer combo. But that seems to be difficult. So I say all this because, people have I say this, well, I'm trying to answer a question in kind of a dad-like way. Well, why do some of these people get work? Well, because they show up, they're professional, they get their job done. That's why. And several of you come in like, yeah, but the stories are terrible. They're boring, and they're garbage, and they're awful. And yeah, maybe so. And that's not good. And in order to be a great writer, in order to be a great, creative, you should be both professional and good and skilled. Both. Two things. And the way I kind of describe it is, hey, if you've got neither of those things, you're at 0%. And if you're professional, but you're not terribly good at what you do, you're at 50%. You're half. You've checked off one of the two boxes. You're 50%. But as you all know, if you went to school, 50% is still a failing grade. So that still is failing. And I think that goes without saying. But it's it just, what, in the world of midgets, Tom Cruise is king. Is that how it goes? Anyway, if you could show up and be professional, you're already leaps and bounds in front of a lot of other people. And it is surprising in comics, and it's weird and puzzling that being kind of ridiculously unprofessional and slamming out on Twitter and doing that kind of stuff. If you're not a terribly good writer and you're unprofessional, I forget about it. You may get in because they're looking for a particular demographic. Like, we're doing this story about a indigenous person with disabilities, and there's exactly one writer out there that fits that bill, so we'll give you the work. But then if you turn out to be unprofessional and also not great at writing, you may get 1 gig, 2 gigs, but it's going to be over for you fairly quickly. And that's been the story of comics, quite a lot over the last several years. All of the complaining about certain people who make jackass out of themselves and also do not do good stories. Just don't create good sellable commercial stories. That's death. That's achieving neither thing. And there are plenty of examples of those. All of the people, frankly, who have annoyed and everything else. Charlie Jane Anders is a trans writer who is currently doing this New Mutant Limited series. Charlie Jane Anders seems to be getting more work at Marvel and DC. What's one of the reasons why? Well, in asking, it's like Anders seems excited about what she does. Anders is excited about, it talks, seems genuinely interested in the material that she's putting together. And Anders turns in scripts on time. They're understandable by the creative team. People are giving Anders pretty high praise in terms of being meeting deadlines, getting stuff in, writing in such a way that people know what's going on, all that kind of stuff. And that will take you a long way in comics. And what you hope is that, Anders, the work, gets progressively better. Not progressive like the politics, you jackass, just progressive, just gets steadily better and leans into that role. And you've certainly seen that. You've seen a lot of people in comics over the years. If you go, pick up their early work, somebody who's talked about this openly is Peter David. Peter David talked about, when he first came in, was tried to get things in on time, be useful, be helpful. And, he says, I wasn't that great a writer at the beginning. I learned a lot. When I look back on some of that early work, a lot of writers say this, I cringe. Because, what you generally find is if somebody is not, doesn't write that great of stories, but they're professional, oftentimes they'll get better at writing the stories. They'll grow into the role. The other way around, somebody who's actually a pretty talented, storyteller and somebody who is pretty skilled, but is a complete and absolute jackass who shows up drunk at parties, who makes a complete and utter ass out of themselves with the company, who flakes on deadlines, all those kinds of things. So one name right now right in my head. Anyway, those people, no matter how skilled they are, don't make it. They get rolled out. They get rolled out because generally you can work your way into talent. It's very hard for you to work your way into professionalism. Because generally speaking, if you're already talented, your ego gets away from you and you don't even think you need to learn. You don't think you need to get better. You're already perfect. You're fucking perfect is what you are. And those people just don't move. So that's why. I totally get it though. If you're already typing kind of the angry response to this, hopefully you're not, because to me, this is all just common sense. I totally understand that when you're dealing with some of the biggest billion-dollar properties on the planet, from a media perspective, I think it's a reasonable expectation to expect both talent and professionalism both in one package. I think that's a reasonable expectation. Now, that said, with the pay that a lot of the writers get, maybe it's not that. If again, I said this has also made people upset, but if you pay bottom dollar, then now you're You're asking for high talent, which is definitely worth more somewhere else. And you're paying for professionalism, which is also worth more. And you're saying that people are going to take a low rate for it. All right. Now you're really pushing it at this point. You know the expression, you get what you pay for? Yeah. You know, now you're down to a world of people who are just passionate about what they do. So now you're hoping that you get people who will take the low pay because they just love comics that much, and you know it's just their dream. But that's a hell of a thing to bank on. I don't think that's a winning strategy if your approach is, well, I'll find people who just really love comics and hope for the best. That's not ideal. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, comments below, and everything else. But I just thought, this is a dynamic that plays out in comics. It's one of the kind of core reasons why you see some of the stuff you see. It's it's also to say, yeah, when I do videos and I talk about some of these creators and I say, yeah, well, reason they're getting work is because they're very professional. That's not to, I'm not ignoring the fact that talent is missing in a lot of cases. That is definitely a problem, no doubt about it. But there's a reason they get hired, and that is the reason. Anyway, thanks for listening.